my name is Jobby, and we're looking at the Toys Alliance Archecore Frostlight. Well, technically, that's not the full name, but I'm not about to read all that. 135 ARCHE-YMIRUS Type 03A103F Frostlight. I don't know why I talk like a robot. And speaking of talking like a robot, here's a word from our sponsor, Surfshark VPN. Didn't forget to wear the shark shirt. Someone browsing the web without a virtual private network is like a robot in disguise without a disguise. Surfshark keeps all your important stuff private, secure, and protected. Like your emails, your passwords, your secret identity as a Cybertronian. Surfshark VPN also lets you virtually travel the world by changing your IP address. You have a choice of over 3,200 servers in 65 countries. Use that to get better deals online? Some stores change their prices depending on where you're shopping from. There's an article about price discrimination in the description that you really should check out. Or you could use Surfshark to watch region-locked content on Netflix. For some unknown reason, only Revenge of the Fallen and Dark of the Moon are on American Netflix. But switch your location to France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and now you can watch funny robot pee-pee. Or The Last Night, but who cares? Point is, you won't need to pay for a whole nother streaming service. Surfshark VPN also includes Surfshark Alert, letting you know when your sensitive information's been compromised in any way. It's available to download on iOS, Android, Mac, Windows, Linux, just about everything. So check the link in the description and use my promo code JOBBY to get 83% off and 3 extra months free. But if you don't want a disguise, like a filthy, non-transforming transformer, there's a 30-day money-back guarantee. And this is a third-party figure. That's actually not fair to say. Archecore is a completely original IP by Toys Alliance, and it seems to be a combination of the aesthetics of Warhammer 40k, Norse mythology, and a certain franchise featuring convertible robots, which is the only reason why I was interested in the first place. This whole Archecore thing is legitimately a fully developed lore. Archecore Saga of Ymyrus, the ancestors of the Vex were. This is as pointless lore as my own. What really matters is the painting and the sculpting on this figure is amazing. At this point, I'm balls deep in the simple blocky shapes of G1 Transformers and the mechanical mess of the Michael Bay stuff. But Frostlight here threads the needle in a really appealing way. Clean, blocky swaths of color while still maintaining a put-together look, if that makes sense. And this guy could have used some form of weathering, but it doesn't need it. It does make up for the lack of weathering with some scratched up decals and a really nice simulated graffiti effect. It just looks like it's been through the trials of war without looking like it's bathed in shit. And of course, for any transformable figure, I gotta point out the back. Really clean stuff, virtually kibble free, and it wouldn't even matter if this guy had a distractingly large backpack because it's a completely original design. But the designers of Toys Alliance took the time to figure out how to make this guy look as clean as possible. If it weren't for the tires on his shoulders, his ankles, and the truck face on its chest, you wouldn't be able to tell this guy transforms into any sort of truck, let alone a long-nosed truck. Gotta point out those tiny, clean details, the golden pipes, the frosty blue headlights. This doesn't have that bootleggy quality you get in some third-party Transformers. This is a completely professional production, and it had better be. Links in the description if you want to send your wallet to Valhalla. And on the topic of those frosty blue headlights, well, the metallic paint on them does a pretty good job at catching the light. There's a part of me that wishes this figure had some light-up features. Again, I always gotta point it out, a figure doesn't have to have any sort of electronic feature to be good. I just think it's a missed opportunity, especially when you look into the lore of this bot. The ARCHE-YMIRUS Type 03 is from the ARCHE-YMIRUS Addiction Project with when activated, its body will emit a crystal-like blue light, so it's called the Frostlight. Very straightforward, but not reflected in the figure. At least the eyes are painted in that same paint as the truck headlights. The head sculpt is fantastic, by the way. Really intimidating, and how the red panels are arranged on the face, combined with the sharp horns, make him look like a true bearded Viking warrior.
But Jobby, Viking helmets didn't actually feature horns.
Vikings also didn't have giant mechs. What's your point?
Then I'm smarter than you!
Die. My only complaint about the head is how it feels. This ball joint is unfortunately not the tightest, but it does keep its position really well. But a little pro tip, out of the box, my copy had this neck part disconnected. So when I went in to do a vibe check for the first time, I thought the head was irredeemably loose. But just push down on his Adam's apple, and that peg should snap into his clavicle. And if the ball joint is still too loose for you, it's easily accessible. Get some joint coom or some super glue in there. The looseness of the head really stands out because the rest of the figure is absolutely solid. Gotta be my favorite part of this thing. Tight friction joints, clicky ratchet joints, and it's pretty hefty too, which I gotta assume is due to some die-cast metal parts. You can tell which parts are metal just by looking at them, or get your hands in there and use my cold touch technique. Definitely built to be played with. And on the topic of play options, you get a few accessories. First of all, what the website calls the frost hammer plugs right into the palm of his hand. Not the best fit, but it gets better if you wrap his fingers around it. Looks amazing, the Norse mythological reference is clear, and it even features a spring-loaded tip. Like my and you get the frost shield. This part connects into this part on any of the arms. Slide that into place, open up his hand, and flip out this handle so it can get some extra grip. There's really no other way to describe this. Epic. Looks about ready to go through a midlife crisis. Does anyone really care about Lady Thor? And for his final pair of weapons, some combat knives, which are pretty straightforward weapons. Doesn't actually plug into his hands. Ah shit. Kind of a downgrade from the hammer and shield, isn't it? Well, at the very least, you have the option to store them. I love clever weapon storage like that. You even get the option of storing his shield. But unfortunately, he can't store the hammer anywhere, which isn't too bad. Just means he has to have his hammer out at all times. Relatable. By the way, hammer is what I call my cock. A good amount of accessories makes him really fun to play with, as does his posability. Ball joint at the head can look up that far and look down that far. Every ball joint can be a swivel. A full rotation at the shoulder. Arm moves out. Don't worry if that shoulder ratchet detaches as you're pulling it down. It's held together pretty well, at least so far. The shoulder pad detaches, so you could get even more range. You get a butterfly joint, bicep swivel, a double bend at the elbow. Weirdly enough, it ratchets as it goes down. Swivel at the wrist. Hinge joint can move inward. Swivel hinge joint at the thumb. Hinge joint at his index finger. And a hinge joint at the rest of his fingers. Waist swivel, and if you untab this pipe, you get an ab crunch. Rotation at the hips, can't move back that far. A beautiful spread. Tight thigh swivel, almost impossibly tight out of the box. Just slowly work it and you should be fine. Bend at the knee, up and down at the ankle. Unpeg the front for a toe bend and a respectable ankle pivot. The fact that most of these joints are some kind of ratchet is a huge turn on. Size comparison. Here's Figma Modic Economy, SH Monster Arts Godzilla, Transform Element OP Leader, my previous review, the Deformation Space Crimson Wings, don't even want to think about it, and another figure that doesn't look like it transforms into a truck, the Unique Toys Challenger. This original concept has won me over, and we haven't even talked about the transformation. Do you see how short these instructions are, but how different the alternate mode is? Pure joy. Lord knows I need it. The instructions are so clear that I basically use them as storyboards. Couldn't say the same for what a day! What a lovely day! And that was a Mad Max reference because this Mad Max style truck is amazing! Barely even looks connected to the robot mode we just talked about. The red of the robot is concealed. The robot proportions are hidden. It's just so beautifully cohesive. And most importantly, the integration of weapon storage. I love it when the accessories are actually necessary to complete the alternate mode. The downside to that, if you lose the weapons, then you're kinda fricked. But on the other hand, shut up. But I am concerned about the knives. While they do a pretty good job at fitting in, they're just kinda hanging out there without anything to cover them. What if I'm roughhousing with this figure, rolling it around with these rubber tires? There just might be the possibility that those knives fall out. Never mind. Point disproven, complaint retracted, I love you! And another hidden weapon on the truck are these flip-out missiles. Not the most impressive thing in the world. They just look like weaponized nipples. And another feature, kinda hard to get that open, it features a fully functional cockpit. You could fit a pilot figure in there, not included. It doesn't have a fully detailed interior, but who cares? And you can flip out this front part to give the dude a better look. I've never been a fan of minifigures interacting with the transforming figure. You know me. But in this case, I am 100% okay with it. First of all, the human figure's not included, so I know it's not artificially inflating the price. Also, that human figure is a fully fledged, completely posable toy on its own. And third of all, this interior and pilot feature does not compromise the robot mode in any way. Bumblebee! Virtually kibble-free as well. Even the bottom of the truck, although a bit hollow, put your weed in there, has barely indication of a robot mode. Even without the shield, the truck bed looks clean. And to top off this delicious sundae, everything fits together really well. The only thing that doesn't plug in is the entire back of the truck, but the ratchet joints at the robot mode's knees more than make up for that. And hey, I suppose that's truck posability. Can't look down that far. Swivel here. To have the robot mode virtually disappear into the truck is such a huge accomplishment. I'm on a roll with these size comparison intros. Here's Modica, Godzilla Prime, Crimson. I'm just kidding. I'm never transforming that ever again. And Challenger. Frostlight may not be Optimus Prime, Megatron, Starscream, but it deserves the same amount of respect, which I hope this video gets too. Share it with your friends if you like it. Toys Alliance is a company to keep your eye on, and I will 100% continue with the Archecore line. At least some of them don't really care about humans
in general.
But there's a pair of wolves and a neat looking trailer that's not just an empty box. Combine! I'm just as surprised as the box is. Pardon the name drop, but really glad that Kellen Goff encouraged me to review this. And I was just thinking everything he likes is shit. My next review will be bigger than you think. Like